friends, welcome to Bookish Bliss, our virtual book club. Every week we will dig into a section of chapters in our favorite books. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of Bookish Bliss. We have a lot to discuss today.
Yes, this week we are covering chapters 61 through 71 of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. There will be no spoilers beyond the covered chapters. You don't have to read the whole book to listen. You just have to be caught up on the chapters we're covering. Amanda, darling, what are you drinking tonight?
Megan, darling, I have Mark West again. It's going to be another fabulous night.
Love it.
What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I also didn't finish from last week, and it's been such a crazy week for both of us that I have not finished at all from what I drank the last time, which wasn't very much, apparently.
Yeah, only one glass or something?
Yeah. So I am just going to pour myself a glass really quickly.
Beautiful.
Cheers, darling.
Cheers to episode 19. Woo!
19.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Delicious. Always.
It's good.
Now let's get started with the good stuff and break down ACOWAR Part VI. Over to you, Meg. Please summarize this set of chapters for us.
I cannot believe we are almost at the end of this book. And so this is my second to last summaries for A Court of Wings and Ruin.
Wild.
I'm going to break it down into tiny little portions right now. And then later in the episode, as you all know, we will be digging a little deeper in that plot section.
Yes.
All right. Here we go with chapter 61. Feyre was a naughty, naughty girlie taking off without telling anyone where she was going. Rhys is just happy to see her safe, but Mor is not happy. Just like Rhys is furious with Cassian for risking his life, Mor is just as furious at Feyre. We need our inner circle keeping peace, not fighting against each other, so we need to get it together. Chapter 62. Nesta is an up-and-coming charlatan as she uses the bones and stones for the first time to scry for the cauldron in Hybern's army. She was successful, but what she saw was not good news for our side of the war. Chapter 63. Feyre has a strange dream that the cauldron had found them and Elaine was being lured into the woods by Lord Grayson. By the time she woke up and they all realized what was happening, Elaine was already gone and inside of Hybern's war camp.
Wild.
Chapter 64. Azriel and Feyre decide they will be the ones to go into Hybern's war camp and get Elaine back. Feyre states she's going to just walk right in and glamours herself to look just like Ianthe. Rhysand tells her to get in and out. No distractions. This chapter ends with Feyre and Azriel walking into the middle of their enemy's war camp.
Wild.
I know. Chapter 65. Jurian is back helping our inner circle again when he leads Feyre, aka Ianthe, into the room with the cauldron and Elaine. He also helps them with a distraction to save a girl who is being tortured by Hybern. Another surprising person helps them escape the war camp. Tamlin?
Wild.
We're going to need to break this down further when we get to the plot section because so much happens in this chapter.
Yes.
Chapter 66. The Winter Court finally arrives and sets up camp with them. Mor and Feyre have a heart-to-heart where Mor finally tells Feyre the truth about herself. Hybern moved their army and are setting our group up for failure, but Amren comes in and says she found a way in the book to stop Hybern's entire army. This is big news.
Big news.
Yes, big news and needed news.
Yes.
Chapter 67. The maid girlies will all have to touch the cauldron to stop Hybern's army. Anyone who could winnow brought humans to the summer court to keep them out of Hybern's path of destruction, and Feyre decides to face her fears and go to the Court of Nightmares to face the Ouroboros.
Wild.
Chapter 68. Feyre finds the mirror. Feyre conquers her fears. Feyre controls herself from strangling the bone carver when they tell her they didn't need the mirror, just wanted to make sure Feyre was worth it to fight in this battle for her. Chapter 69. Their army walks through all of the destruction Hybern had already created before making it to the final showdown, the final battlefield of Perithian versus Hybern. But after the battle begins with the magic round, and before Reese could strike the Hybern army, she surprises everyone by revealing two friends. Not to be outdone, Reese surprises them with a new weapon to unleash upon Hybern as well.
That's right.
Chapter 70. The special guest stars start eating their way through Hybern. Reese cuts the Hybern army in two, and the Autumn Court and Spring Court finally arrive to start participating in this war. Durian is also leading the human army into battle, and they are awaiting orders. Nesta alerts everyone the cauldron is about to be in use and screams for Cassian, who breaks out of his line to fly towards her when the cauldron erupts, and he would have been dead.
Wild.
And our last chapter to summarize is chapter 71. So many didn't make it through those two blasts the cauldron gives out. And RIP the Bone Carver. Also, as Hybern brings in more troops, we finally get a sigh of relief as Draken and Miriam finally show up, and with them is their father.
What?
Feyre, Elaine, and Nesta's father. We have a lot to discuss.
Yes, we do. And I think I just said wild after every single chapter because it just keeps coming at you so fast.
I know. It's honestly so crazy.
It's so crazy. What an eventful set of chapters.
Right? All right, Amanda. Can you please bring us up to date with all characters?
Yes, and I feel like my section is super short this week, characters and world building, because most of it is plot stuff. So I'm just going to touch base on a few things here, starting with the characters.
All right.
Rhysand is up first, and Rhys didn't realize Feyre was gone until after the battle. Just when Helion sent word, he found Feyre using whatever gift he possessed that allowed him to sense such things. He tells her, "Leave a note next time, why don't you?"
Yeah. Please just write a note. You know how to do that now.
Yeah, now you can read and write. Come on. A little note
Yeah.
would have been nice.
Yeah.
Cassian calls Rhysand out for being mad for their choices to protect him, but they can't be mad at him for his self-sacrificing bullshit. I love that Cassian gets him back with this because it's true, Rhys.
Yeah.
You all want to save each other, but you gotta save yourselves first.
No, I know. But I feel like Rhys is in charge at the end of the day. Well, Rhys and Feyre. And so I guess what Rhys is saying is, I can pull this self-sacrificing bullshit because this is my court and I'm in charge and you're not. So if I'm going to pull rank to save your life, like, you just need to shut your mouth.
Yeah, I get it.
Is it fair? No.
No.
But that's just, he can do that stuff. Cassian can't do that.
Yeah. But isn't it kind of their duty to save the High Lord? So they should be the ones sacrificing themselves for him.
Yeah, I guess if they were a bad High Lord, like Baron.
Yeah. So I can see the pride that Cassian feels when he can't save Rhysand, or he puts himself in these crazy situations that make it hard to save him.
Yeah.
Moving on, though. Mor is livid with Feyre for lying to her and not telling her where she was going when she vanished. Feyre hits her back with, "Oh yeah, you lie to us every day about Azriel." And woo, does that get spicy. Of course, Mor and Feyre end up making up. But when Feyre left to seek out the Suriel, Mor thought to herself that she may never see her again and be able to make things right. So she is doing that now. We learn during this very heartfelt conversation between the two girls that Mor prefers females. She enjoys the company of males, but has a better bond and more of a connection with females. She knew she could never tell her family, though, because her father's bloodline would have ended with her. It's considered selfish for not being able to pass on the bloodline. She lives in terror of her family finding out still to this day, basically. Mm-hmm. Nefel and her lover, who is now her wife, made Mor dare to try. She was jealous of what they had and their openness. Back then, one of the human queens who Mor had loved so much, I hope I don't butcher her name, Andromache? Let's go with that. She was a queen who needed to continue her royal line, especially during that time. So Mor left, but she realized it was a mistake. Unfortunately, it was too late though. The wall went up that day, And for 3 years, she tried to find a hole to cross it. But by the time she managed to find a way through, the queen had married a man and had a baby. So Moore went back home. The queen went on to have 5 children and died an old woman safe in her bed. Moore recalls seeing her spirit again in the Golden Queen, her descendant. None of the guys in the inner circle knew her secret. Asriel loved her so much, but she never felt the same way, and now we know why.
Yeah,
Wild.
that was definitely a wild revelation. I don't think I ever suspected that coming
Me
when
neither.
Moore announces this to Farah.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
number one, she's in a love triangle with 2 guys. She
yeah.
sleeps with Helion. Like, how are we ever going to get a hint of this ever?
Yeah, that's true. Like, her cover is definitely well done
Yeah,
because we had no idea or suspected it. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I guess she was weird about the people she was hooking up with when she was at Rita's, and Cassian would question her and she'd be like, "It's none of your business."
right.
But at the same time, she openly had hookups with males in front of them. So
Yeah,
to try to keep Azriel at bay. I mean, I guess that's just really sad that she doesn't even feel comfortable enough to tell her closest friends and
I know.
family
I
for over
know.
500 years.
I know. And also, it's kind of fucked up because you're just leading Azriel on for all this time.
I know. And she knows that it's wrong.
I
But at
know.
the same time, I don't know why you wouldn't just put Azriel out of his misery. But I guess she's saying if I do that and I say why I could never love him, then everyone's going to know. And I'm not ready for that yet. So that's why she keeps up this aloof
Yeah,
persona
yeah.
and keeps Azriel dangling. So she admits is not right
No,
because
yeah.
it's wrong what she's doing to Azriel, and she knows that at least, but
Yeah, I
she's
think
not.
her trauma too with her family and even them finding out is what is holding her back the most.
Yeah, and I feel like even if her family was understanding and it was just like Reese and the friends that she needed to come out to, that's not an easy
I
thing to
know.
admit, one, to yourself, but then two, to everyone else, and
Yeah,
to live authentically. It's not an easy thing to do.
right.
So
Yeah.
she definitely has an uphill battle when it comes to that, but at least she has now Feyre on her side who knows the truth and has her back, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on.
Yes.
Varian drops to his knees before Amren's chair, took her shocked face in his broad hands, and kisses her soundly. I was like, okay, Amren,
The balls
the
of
balls.
Varian to
In
just
front of
go up
everyone.
to Amren and
I
lay
know.
one on her.
I know. Wild.
That's so scary.
Varian and Amren didn't even bother to join them for dinner. Amren wrapped her legs around him and they kissed and walked out of the room, and that's the last they saw of them for the night. Wild.
Dang. Get it, Amren. Get
Get it,
it.
Amren. Amren also has some news for the crew, which you kind of mentioned in your summaries earlier already, but she has found a way to stop Hybern's entire army. Let's hope that our maid girlies can get to that fucking cauldron and do what they need to do.
Fingers crossed. At the
Fingers
end of these set
crossed.
of chapters, it's not looking so good.
I know.
We're already down 2 out of the 4.
I know, it's true. Feyre awoke from a nightmare about the cauldron. She could feel it there. So could Amren and Nesta. They could hear it singing a song. They heard it fading away, and they thought of Elaine and ran to her tent. But they realized that Elaine was gone. The cauldron lured her by having Grayson standing at the edge of the camp calling to her, promising her love and healing, the same dream that Feyre had also had. So crazy.
I
This is how
know.
they get this girl, Elaine. She still has hope for Grayson.
I know. Sad.
Nesta, we know, has stolen something vital from the cauldron, and in those moments, Nesta had hunted it down for them. The cauldron had learned what was vital to her, which is why it went after Elaine in the first place.
Yep.
Asriel gives his blue siphon to Feyre, and they go to visit a blacksmith. With silver candlesticks from her tent and Asriel's siphon, she asks him to craft the circlet. Asriel had gone to the camp priestess and retrieved a spare set of her robes, and they got some silver jewelry from her. She plans to go to Hybern camp impersonating Ianthe to retrieve Elaine. Feyre runs into Jurian at the Hybern camp. He knows it's Feyre right away, but he plays along to try and help Elaine escape. He plans to leave with them, but he doesn't make it. Feyre is pretending to pray as Ianthe, as Asriel tries to free Elaine from the spelled chains. He can't figure it out and decides they need to leave and will get them off of her later, and they make a run for it. Asriel makes them invisible, but Naga-like hounds can scent them and still go running after them. And that was anxiety I had, that whole part.
That was. So it was like a
I'm like,
long
no.
sequence of her like, I'm gearing up to do this and I'm gearing up to do that. It's like, okay, just fucking do it.
Yeah, just do it. Get it over with and get her the fuck out.
Yeah.
Tamlin, of all fucking people, shows up and fights the Naga Hounds to give Feyre and Asriel time to escape with Elaine and Briar, who is a human girl who Jurian saves from being tortured and places them in the direction that Asriel and Feyre are moving to for them to take her out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam and fucking Draken show up.
Finally!
Finally, they're here to help aid in the battle. They brought ships of warriors, Draken's entire legion of Seraphim. 3 centuries ago, they had some trouble on their borders and set up a glamour to keep their island shielded. They got the idea from Rhys and how he glamored Valeris. They have been on Crete this entire time until they heard about Hybrid. So even when Asriel went there and saw this deserted island, they were really there. It was just glamored.
Yeah, and I'm surprised with Asriel's powers that he wasn't able to tell that.
I know, wild. Crazy.
Hmm.
And last but not least, in our character section, the Prince of Merchants. Their father returns, leading the humans on the Nesta in the war against Hybern. Wild. That was the most shocking thing I think that has happened so far in this book. Like, I was not expecting this low-life dad who did nothing while his fucking 14-year-old daughter was hunting in the woods to feed the family.
Yeah.
Wild. What a comeback.
Epic way. Yeah. To return.
What a comeback. Crazy.
Crazy.
But we're going to move right on into the world building section here. We're going to start at the Hybern War Camp. Feyre describes the Hybern camp and says that the place made the Court of Nightmares seem like a human sitting room filled with maidens embroidering pillows, which I thought was funny. I actually chuckled at this.
Yeah.
He was torturing humans the same way Claire was tortured under the mountain, though. Not funny, that part.
No.
We get this little tidbit, too, in the Winter Court, where these little white foxes bearing what looks to be messages strapped to their little embroidered vests scuttling about. I thought that was so cute.
It is so cute. And I forgot about this tidbit, which reminded me of Crescent City, which I shared with Amanda earlier. Obviously, she hasn't read it yet. And this is not a spoiler. But in Crescent City, these little otters come and deliver the messages with little yellow vests on. And they're swimming in the water. And then they go get the messages and they come bring them to you. And I'm like, I want one. Now I want a little fox to come deliver my message as well.
A little white fox. That would be so cute.
I know. I love that Sarah builds these animals into cute little messengers for people.
I know. Yeah. They don't have cell phones in this era, apparently.
No.
Or carrier pigeons. We have white foxes and otters, apparently, in Crescent City.
Well, in Crescent City, they do have cell phones or phones, so I don't know why. They still need the otters, but I mean, who wouldn't want a cute little otter coming up to you and be like, here's your message.
Yeah, I definitely want one of those.
Here's your package.
So funny. Feyre decides to go to the Court of Nightmares, to the chamber near the uppermost peak that she has learned from her research to retrieve the Ouroboros. She decides she needs it. She needs the bone carver in this war, and she's determined now. The Ouroboros was a massive round disc as tall as Feyre, maybe even taller. The metal around it had been fashioned after a massive serpent, the mirror held within its coils as it devoured its own tail, ending and beginning. Up close, the surface was like a gray, calm sea, undisturbed, sleeping. But when Feyre looked into it, she saw a massive beast of claws and scales and fur and shredding teeth crawling down towards her. She realized, though, that she was looking at her reflection of what lurks beneath her skin. She ends up not going mad, thank God, and gives the Ouroboros to the bone carver, and he agrees to join them in battle.
Yeah. Yep.
Wild.
I don't know how she didn't go crazy.
She didn't go crazy, yeah. She's just too powerful and strong mentally.
She's overcome worse than seeing herself as a beast when she already thinks of herself as that anyways. So
it's true.
She's like,
she's not afraid of herself.
Yeah, she's like, you're not telling me anything I didn't already know.
Yeah, I'm a bad bitch, and I know that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is actually a really sad part. They were walking through to the final battle with Hybern,
Mm-hmm.
and they see nothing left but smoking cinders and crumbled stone past Feyre's old village,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Thank God they got all those people out because it was
Yeah.
literally rubbish now.
Yeah. Thank God. They
So
got as
sad.
many out as they could.
Yes, they did. And we've gotten now to our war highlights section. So once
Perfect.
again, just going to bullet these out. There's a lot of them in this section.
Yes. We're in full blown war mode.
Yes, and we're still not done. The battle is still not over. Wild.
Yes, because I like to end
Torture
things in the
me?
middle of in the middle of battles, meetings, anything crazy happening. I'm like, this is a good point to stop.
Yeah, Megan likes to torture me and make me stop reading.
Yeah, because if people who maybe are just joining for this episode, which would be great, but I would love you to go back and listen to all of them. So Amanda just reads as we go. She doesn't know anything that happened past these chapters that we're talking about right now. She
Yeah.
literally has no idea what still awaits her.
And I think I yelled at Megan, why do this to me? Why did you do this to me? Right after we find the Prince of Merchants is coming back, I had to stop reading.
Hmm.
Torture. Thank God we
Yep.
have a book club book that I can switch to. But anyways, the war highlights. From the beginning of this section, they won the second battle in the summer court, but barely. Tarquin decides again what to do with the Hybern survivors, and Cassian was badly injured. When Feyre enters Nesta's mine in her search for the cauldron, she sees the army that stretched into the horizon, the weapons, the hate, and the sheer size, which horrified her.
Hmm.
Callius's army was winnowing in supplies and units of warriors. Hybern is on the move again. He shifted directions. He planned to move the army north, drive them back that way, but now he marches due east. Feyre believes the king feels insulted by her and her sisters. Nesta took from the cauldron, she killed his priestess, and stealing Elaine back was the last straw. The king of Hybern is fucking pissed now.
Yeah, he really is.
Yep. They figured out that if they all could touch the cauldron together, Elaine, Nesta, Feyre, and Amryn, and get it under their control, they could bind the king and his army and wipe them off the face of the earth. Alone, the cauldron's lethal power had nearly killed Feyre, but together, they could withstand it. The inner circle winnowed as many humans as they could to Cressida in the summer court, where she had set up a camp for all of the remaining humans that couldn't make it to Grayson's estate. A legion of Thesan's peregrines flapped into rank beside the Illyrians. Rhys had brought the Weaver to battle. He sent Helion to bargain on his behalf. That was why Helion was in the middle the day he found Feyre. He offered to break the containment spell for her services in the battle. Braxis was a blur of ever-changing claws and fangs and wings and muscles shifting and whirling within that dark cloud that struck and smothered. Sounds fucking scary.
Holy shit. I would have
Holy
run,
shit.
run away.
Yes. Baron's army and Tamlin's army joined their forces. Wagons full of Fabane crackled with blue fire and then turned to ash with no trace of smoke. Eris's brothers went to every cache, every arsenal, destroying their supply of deadly Fabane. Jurian's human army did not falter either. They did not break, even as they went down, one by one. Poor humans.
I know, they're trying.
Miriam and Draken join their battle, and so does the Prince of Merchants. Wild.
So crazy.
And we're so close to getting to this plot section. We just have one more. Megan's favorite section, fast magic.
Fast magic?
Fast magic. Ooh, 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 fast magic. Ooh, ooh. No one has DM'd us, clearly, to give
Yeah,
us
so
a jingle.
that's why fast magic is still this. So we'll keep doing random shit until someone sends us something.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Nesta holds the bones and stones in her hands and casts her mind towards the cauldron to find the bond that links them. Nesta is frozen when she's holding the bones and stones and looking for the tether between her and the cauldron. So Feyre enters her mind. The cauldron seems to sense them. They're watching it. Nesta opened her hands, and the stones and bones formed a perfect tight circle around a spot on the map. That definitely sounds a little witchy to me, if you ask me.
It definitely is witchy.
Yes. The king uses the same spell that Rhys had put around Valeris to hide his camp from sight and dispel people who got too close. A warm wind, kissed with lilac and new grass, blasted up from beneath Feyre, a wind of spring lifting her, filling her wings, and she rose, and our girl is flying. Thanks
She
for the
was
lift,
flying.
Tamlin.
Thanks for the lift. You finally did something right.
Yup. Feyre unleashes her power from Helion, a blinding light to create a hole in the ward for them to escape. And they do. And Tamlin gets out as well, but not unscathed. Asriel is badly injured, and Feyre was shot with an ash arrow. Elaine and Briar, though, were okay. They called Helion to help with the spell's chains, and Thesan to help heal them. He doesn't have much experience with the Lyrian wings, so they're bringing in Maja. And last for our magic section is the tattoo that Feyre receives from her bargain with the bone carver had disappeared once the cauldron had made it vanish. R.I.P. Bone Carver.
R.I.P. Bone Carver.
So sad.
That was sad.
Yeah. But that's all I have for world building today. I'm so excited to jump right into this plot, talk about this battle. So I'm going to let you take over, Meg, and go back to chapter 61.
All right, let's take a little sippy sip before we
Yes.
jump into the plot section.
Perfect.
All right.
Delicious.
Chapter 61. Helion winnows Feyre back into the war camp. Rhys reached for Feyre as she falls into his arms and starts bawling her eyes out. Everyone else leaves the room while she holds Rhys. I know. I would do the same thing after I witnessed the Surreal's death. I'm like, Rhys, hold me.
I know. I still am not over the cereal dying.
I know.
The bone
still
carver,
not-
I'm like, okay, but
Yeah.
the cereal.
It's different. It's a different
It's different.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhys told Feyre that Cassian had been hurt badly after she finishes crying. He's like, I know you just finished crying, but Cassian almost died.
Yeah. Cry some more now.
Yeah. Feyre immediately walks over to the tent Cassian is in while he's being healed. The injury looks bad now, and she can't even imagine what it had looked like when it first happened.
Yeah.
Moore wants to know where Feyre was, and she is not happy.
No.
We learn Cassian is going to live, but he's going to be sore for a few days. Cassian was charging ahead alone, trying to reform the lines when he was brought down.
Mm-hmm.
Moore again wants to know where Feyre was in a not very nice tone. The healer even had to say, if you guys are going to fight, get out of this room. This does not need to be happening in front of Cassian right now.
No.
Rhys then looks to Feyre and says that she is always free to go, but maybe to leave a note the next time.
Yes.
Moore won't even look at Feyre at this point.
No, she is livid.
Livid.
Moore is livid, but Rhys is not. Here is my notable line for chapter 61, page 544. Rhys says, I do not let you do anything. You are your own person. You make your own choices, but we are mates. I am yours and you are mine. We do not let each other do things as if we dictate the movements of each other. But I might have insisted I go with you, more for my own mental well-being, just to know you were safe.
Yes.
Oh, good. Don't ever fucking tell her what to do.
Yeah, he definitely just wanted to go with her and make sure that she was okay. And he also tells her that the surreal was not her fault.
Yeah.
Cassian wakes up with a groan. Rhys said that they barely won the battle. Rhys also tells Cassian to never pull that shit again. That Cassian's guts were hanging out and Azriel had to hold them in for him.
Ugh.
Like, that is crazy.
That is crazy.
Rhys is mad because Cassian disobeyed orders. Cassian is pissed because Rhys is mad at him and thought that Rhys's orders were bullshit. Rhys pulls rank and Rhys reminds Cassian, I'm not pissed, dude. I'm fucking furious.
Yeah.
Cassian throws the self-sacrificing bullshit back at Rhys, and that's when the other members of the inner circle decide this is a great time for us to back out of this tent right now.
Yeah, they're like, look at the time. I must go.
I I have a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Let's let you guys work that out. We'll be in the other tent.
I'm Team Cassian, though. I understand, Reese, you're the High Lord and blah, 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 but poor Cassian.
No, I see it, but Cassian shouldn't have been charging off alone
I
to
know.
reform the lines when
I
he
know.
now had his guts hanging out of his stomach.
Ugh.
His beautiful stomach.
Yeah.
Feyre sees Nesta standing outside of the tent and she tells her that Cassian is okay. Apparently, Nesta is being punished for not giving up Feyre's location, which honestly, fuck more for making her do chores or whatever,
Yeah.
because that's her sister. Of course, she's going to keep her loyalty
Of
to
course.
Feyre.
Did she even know where she was going?
No, Elaine did, but Nesta didn't. Nesta
Yeah.
just knew that she left.
Well, what did Moore want her to do? A freaking spell right there to find her?
Yeah, I don't know. Stupid. Anyways, Moore and Feyre have an argument. Moore is pissed that Feyre lied to her, that Feyre pushed her towards the battlefield so that she could sneak away. Feyre says she's sorry, but Moore does not want to hear Feyre's apology. She gets why Feyre did what she did, but it's not an excuse for lying. The risk of highborn, Moore had to look into Rhys's eye and say, I have no idea where Feyre is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get where Moore is coming from during this, what Feyre did. I think Feyre never should have even left the battle while it was going on.
I
But
agree.
yeah, I get where Moore is coming from
Yeah.
during this argument. I'm on Moore's side, which is not a side that I'm usually on.
I agree. I am too. She was probably terrified too, not
Yeah.
of just telling Reese, but of Feyre's safety in general too, you know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Feyre doesn't want to listen to this. Moore's like, well, you're going to. You are the high lady. And it doesn't look good when their high lady doesn't trust the inner circle or the people closest around them and lies.
Yeah.
It's just not a good look, especially in the middle of this battle where we need everyone to be banding together. You can't be going rogue and doing rogue shit, which is
Yeah.
what Feyre always does. You tell her one thing and
And
she's
she
going to
does.
do the complete opposite.
Don't put the book together.
Don't show the other High Lords you have their powers. Stay at the tent, Feyre.
Stay
Poofs
there.
to the middle.
Unbelievable. Why are we surprised at this point? Are we surprised? I don't know if we're surprised.
No, we're definitely not
We're not
surprised.
surprised.
Feyre throws the lying, though, back in Moira's face. She's like, oh, I'm a liar? You're a liar. We're getting just so petty at this point. No,
Yeah.
you're a liar. No, you're a liar. Moore doesn't want to be pushed, and Feyre's like, oh, you don't want to be pushed about things and your choices? Yeah, neither do I. And Moore's like,
Yeah.
get out of here! Get out of my tent!
Leave.
And that's when Amryn, decides to finally make her appearance at the war camp, is at this perfect moment.
Perfect.
Which brings us to chapter 62. Amryn warns Feyre that there are some truths about the Morgan that she hasn't even faced herself yet. So there's some cryptic messages going on from Amryn.
Yeah. So Amryn knows then about Moore.
I'm pretty sure just Amryn knows everything.
Yeah. She knows all.
She just will look at you and she'll know your whole life. Everyone has gathered in Rhys and Feyre's tent to discuss what Amryn found in the book. But Nesta enters the tent to try to find Hybern's army. Per the Surreal's suggestion, she could try to use the bones and stones to scry. Apparently, Nesta did not argue about helping.
Good. That's right. She's finally in the inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my notable line for chapter 62, page 550. Rhys says, your sister came immediately when I explained what was needed. I think seeing Cassian hurt convinced her not to pick a fight today. Nesta lifted the bag. So I scattered these like some backstreet charlatan and it'll find the cauldron?
Yeah, even though Nesta's helping, she's still gonna be Nesta.
Yeah, she's still gotta have her sassy remarks.
Yeah, just probably see the disdain written all over her face, looking at these bones and stones going, you want me to touch that?
Yeah.
You want me to close my eyes and touch that and it's going to find the cauldron?
That was a beautiful interpretation.
Thank you. Amryn's like, yep, pretty much. So put them in your fucking hands.
Yep.
Cassian is like, okay, hold them in your hands for a start. And then Cassian also stands up and says, nothing can hurt you here. And he has his arm around her and placed on her lower back.
Look at him coddling her. I love it.
I know. His guts were just hanging out, but he's like, don't worry, Nesta, I got your back.
And Nessa's not even like, ew. She's enjoying it.
Yeah, she's letting him touch her without
Yeah.
complaint. Whoa.
Progress.
Yeah. So as Nesta has her eyes closed, she's like, I don't see anything. I can't sense anything. And Amryn tells her that she has to go deeper. Feyre, though, can tell when Nesta sees something. Nesta looks frozen in fear. That's when Feyre jumps into Nesta's mind, and Nesta has, in fact, found the cauldron and the army. And there is way more people in this army than they ever expected. The cauldron, like Amanda said earlier, seemed to have sensed the two girls standing there watching it, and that the cauldron starts watching them back. Feyre's like, you need to throw those stones right now. Right now. So finally, Nesta lets go and it forms a perfect circle on the map of where the army is. They were about 100 miles from Feyre's family estate at this point. Rhys is now catching up the other High Lords about what happened and what Nesta and Feyre saw. Even with winter coming, they would not have enough soldiers to fight Hybern's army. Helion suggests that they sleep on it and they'll decide tomorrow. Hybern officially has won the high ground in this war. And that is when Varian enters the tent, shocks all of us, and goes up to Amryn and smooches her.
Wild.
What a great way to end a chapter.
Yeah, he was like, if this isn't going to end well for us, I got to do it now. Now or never.
Now or never. You gotta respect it.
Gotta respect it.
Chapter 63. Amryn and Varian did not join them for dinner.
Rhys says, I suppose that's how Varian decided he'd tell Amryn he was feeling rather grateful she ordered us to go to Adriata. Tarquin cringed. We'll alternate who has to deal with them on holidays.
I mean, I think he means who's dealing with Amryn.
Yeah, exactly. Because Varian, it seems easy to control and handle.
Yeah.
Too funny.
So funny. Feyre later that night is having a very strange dream. She's dreaming about the surreal, sad, the Weaver, and Ianthe screams. Well, that sounds like
Happy.
not a nightmare. And of Lord Grayson beckoning Elaine to the edge of the woods, saying he could change her back into a human. Then Feyre sees in her dream the cauldron and how it was watching them, and she felt it reaching out its tendril of power at them, which jerks her awake immediately. She tells Rhys something is wrong, that the cauldron found them and was watching them again. They immediately got dressed, and outside of their tent, Nesta is standing there. She can feel it as well. Amryn joins them, saying they can hear and sense the cauldron and hear its siren song. Rhys is like, I can't hear anything. And Amryn's like, you weren't made. Of course you can't hear it.
Duh.
And Azriel comes out. He can't hear it, but he knows something is wrong because his shadows are recoiling because of the power. Finally, the cauldron siren song stops, and now everyone knows that Hybern will know where they were. And the cauldron had been taunting them after they had opened this door, basically, with Nesta's little adventure with the bones and stones, and opened this door to the cauldron and its power to be able to find them and to locate them. So the cauldron's like, you think you're going to track me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to track you right back.
Yeah. He learned from them. He's like picking up on what they're putting down. He's like, I can do that too.
Yeah. See what I can do.
Yeah.
Azriel goes, where's Elaine? And everyone goes into panic, rushing to her tent where Elaine's bed is empty.
Wild. Why, Elaine?
Rhys winnows towards the woods, but when he comes back, he only has Elaine's cloak. Feyre knew her dream was how the cauldron had lured Elaine with Lord Grayson, and now Elaine was in the Hybern war camp.
She must be feeling so dumb.
I
She's
know.
going to have no fucking hope after this. That was like the
Yeah.
last ounce of hope, I feel like. Just got yanked from her.
For sure.
Poor little Elaine.
Poor little Elaine. Chapter 64. Nesta is defeated, sitting just thinking about how Elaine is now in the Hybern war camp. She's distraught.
Yeah.
Cassian says, we will get her back. But Nesta says, I saw the army there. No one is getting her back, especially Cassian because he's injured.
Mm-hmm.
Azriel is adamant. I am getting Elaine back. And Nesta's like, you will die then. Even Nesta is saying, this is too dangerous to even
Yeah.
go get Elaine, who she loves above anybody in this world,
Anybody. Yeah.
is saying, Cassian, you're not going. You're injured. And she doesn't even really want Azriel and Feyre to go. She's like, you will die. I saw
Yeah.
that army and you're going to die going to get Elaine. She knows it's too dangerous. She's not even begging on her knees, like, please go get Elaine back.
It's crazy though, because like you said, Elaine is her favorite person in the entire world. So what is the other option? You're just going to let them torture her and kill her?
I don't know. It's like by sending Azriel and Feyre, though, you're losing heavy hitters for the final
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
So
I get
maybe
it.
that's what Nesta's thinking. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Forward thinking. Makes sense.
But Azriel doesn't care. He's like, I'm going. So Feyre's like, I'm going to go with you, which Azriel just nods. He doesn't, try to stop her or
Yeah.
say he doesn't think that's a good idea. But Cassian's like, you guys are never going to get let in. And Feyre's like, I'm just going to walk right in. And she glamours herself to look like Ianthe.
Yup.
She asks Azriel for one of his blue siphons and asks to see the blacksmith so she can make her little headpiece.
Circlet.
Yeah. Azriel grabs a robe from one of their high priestesses and she places the jewel headband around her head. Feyre warns Rhys when Rhys finally enters the tent now that he knows Feyre's crazy plan to go save Elaine, that Rhys cannot come with her because the king will sense his powers the second he walks into that camp.
Mm-hmm.
Rhys is like, fine, here's what you need to do. The wards around the camp mean that they will have to walk in and walk out, and then they can win out. And that Feyre does not linger, she does not get distracted, and she to know when to pick your fights. Which I feel like the second Feyre walked into that camp, she's like, a Children of the Blessed girl who I'm not supposed to be in here to save. Let me add that on my list of things to do because
Yeah.
now I'm lingering and I'm distracted and I'm not picking my battles appropriately.
Always with this girl. Always doing what she's not supposed to do.
I mean, obviously, what she did is correct, but it's just like,
Yeah.
why do people waste their breath saying things to Feyre
I
when
know
she's just
why.
gonna do whatever she wants to do, anyways?
Literally. And this is my notable line for chapter 64, page 565. They took what is ours, and we do not allow those crimes to go unpunished. You do not fear. You do not falter. You do not yield. You go in, you get her, and you come out again. Remember that you are a wolf and you cannot be caged. That's right.
That's right. I mean, that's a good speech.
That is a good speech. Because he's
Reese is
not going to tell her not to.
nope, he's not. It's
No,
her choice,
it is
Amanda.
her choice.
She gets choices, Amanda.
Yes, she does.
Reese is very formal when he speaks to Azriel about how they will all get in and all get out alive. Feyre and Az winnow away as Moore enters the tent looking at them, looking real scared for them.
Mm-hmm.
They arrive, though, right outside of the camp thanks to Nesta finding the army, and Azriel becomes shadows and she walks into the heart of Hybern's army.
Dun, dun, dun.
So crazy.
So crazy. Good plan, though, honestly, with the blue siphon, being Ianthe.
It is. It's a good plan.
Like, how else would they have done it? They would have literally died any other way.
I guess Azriel just would have had to have kept Feyre in his shadows as
Yeah, in the
well.
shadows. Yeah.
Chapter 65. The guards let Feyre in and they did not question her as Ianthe, so the camp did not know yet that Ianthe was dead.
Thank
Which
God.
is good. Yeah, for us.
Thank the cauldron.
Thank the cauldron
And
and
the
the
mother.
mother. Most of the soldiers were awake and celebrating. It's like, were they celebrating Elaine showing up at the camp, or they're just like ready because they have the high ground in this war now that they're like, we're gonna win. I don't know what they're celebrating, but they're
Ugh.
celebrating.
I hope they're celebrating the war and not Lane, because that's cringy.
No, I know. Azriel grips Feyre's shoulders to remind her not to run because there's all this like crazy, just gross Hybern army soldiers and creatures around, and he's like, don't run.
Yeah. Like, Ianthe wouldn't be scared of this, so you gotta remain calm.
Yes. Feyre sees the children of the blessed tied up and screaming. There was only one girl left alive. Her companions were dead. And Jurian approaches Ianthe and says he's been looking for you, which obviously is the king.
Yeah.
Jurian then realizes that Ianthe is really Feyre when he spots the siphon on top of her head. And Feyre just says to Jurian, "Where is she?" And Jurian tells Feyre that Ianthe has been lusting after him for a while, so that she needed to act like it. I'm like, oh, gross, Jurian, grow up. Jurian tells Feyre it gave the king quite a shock when Elaine appeared before the cauldron and he locked her up. So he really wasn't expecting Elaine to show up. The cauldron kind of went rogue and did its own thing. And
Wild.
when Elaine showed up, the king was like, wow, what a gift to show up in the middle of my camp. Like, what? I am really winning this war. This is such great luck."
That's wild, actually. I didn't even realize that's how it went down.
Yeah, so because it was so unexpected, that's probably why Elaine is still alive and really unharmed, because he had no idea what to do with her because he wasn't expecting
Yeah.
her,
He was still busy torturing the children of the blessed.
basically.
That's crazy.
Jurian pretends that he is going to take Ianthe to bed, but tells her to say that she needs to pray before the cauldron before they retire. Jurian says Feyre will never be able to get out both Elaine and the girl from the Children of the Blessed. And Feyre says, "Get the girl and I'll make it happen. Just meet me and I will get her out." Jurian tells Feyre that she has 5 minutes. He is going to cause a distraction and to meet him at the western edge of the woods. Jurian also knows somehow that Asriel is with her. He's like, "Make sure you get them out," or whatever he says. And it's like, how does
Yeah.
Jurian is just so smart.
I know. How is he so smart?
I mean, I guess he figured that Reese would never send Feyre into
Alone.
Hybern's war camp
Blind.
alone.
Yeah.
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 So the only
This
logical person that's with her is Az.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just still shocked that the cauldron went rogue because I didn't even realize until this moment when we're talking about it that it went rogue. And now I'm like, is the cauldron evil? You're supposed to be good.
I don't know if the cauldron's good. I think it's neutral. I don't think the cauldron is good or bad. I think it's this neutral object, and that
Mhm.
whoever has the cauldron or is wielding its power is how it decides what it is
What to
or what
do.
it
Yeah.
does. But at the same time, the cauldron luring Elaine, I think it's because the cauldron technically made Elaine and probably knows of the king's plans for the girls, so maybe that's why it took Elaine. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe the cauldron is bad. I don't know.
Maybe the cauldron really just wanted to get back at Nesta and
Right.
has nothing to do with the war.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Because yeah, technically the cauldron would have beef with Nesta because it took so
Yeah.
much from it.
Right. Interessante. I just feel like there was so much, I don't want to say foreshadowing, but kind of like inklings that the cauldron wanted to help them almost. But that
Yeah.
just like totally blew my mind when you said that that it went rogue. I'm like, where was I alive reading that? Because I did not read it like that at all.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because the king is shocked when Elaine shows up in front of the
Yeah.
cauldron. And yeah, the
Wild.
cauldron's pissed at Nesta for taking power from it. So yeah, I guess maybe the cauldron is neutral, but it's still pissed off because it's missing some of its power.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's like its own person.
Interessante. Yeah. Wild. Okay, continue.
Jurian also says for Feyre to save a dagger in case they catch her alive. She needs to use it on herself. He's like, do not
Mhm.
let the king get his hands on you. Like, you need to kill
Right.
yourself before that happens, which is just so
Damn.
crazy to think about.
Yeah, because he ain't gonna let her go easy. It'll be very torturous and gruesome and not fun.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Feyre starts praying to the cauldron, just reciting these prayers like she would always hear Ianthe saying. And Azrael comes out of the shadows and they find Elaine and she's handcuffed with binds that Helion would need to undo, as Feyre could not get them off. She didn't have enough time to like dig deep into her Helion power and
Right.
take these bindings off of Elaine. Azriel says that they need to start running to the western edge. He will go back and get the girl if Jurian is not there in time. The king's hounds start chasing them through the camp, and a rain of ash arrows start to fly at them. The king knows where they are now, calling them thieves, and how is he going to punish them? Even though they had shields up, they're basically getting destroyed by these ash arrows, and one finally hits Feyre.
Mm-hmm.
The hounds immediately start coming at her, and that is when Tamlin appears and starts fighting the hounds away from Feyre.
Thank you, Tam Tam.
Feyre had Thank you, Tam Tam. Feyre had felt someone running alongside of them, but she just thought it was like the Hybern commanders or soldiers
Right.
following them, so that because they were invisible and that once the hounds got them, like they would come out. But it was really Tamlin was the one running beside them to be there when they needed him,
Yeah.
which is
Like, how
just
is Tamlin in the camp?
well, because he went back to the camp because the King of Hybern still doesn't
True.
know that he
To
went to
the
the High
meeting.
Lords meeting and wasn't on their side.
Sneaky,
Yeah.
sneaky, Tam Tam.
Trying to get as much information as he could.
Okay, I see you. I see you, Tammy.
Azria tells Feyre she's gonna have to fly. We're gonna have to jump off this cliff and you're gonna have to use your wings because it's the only way we're getting out of here alive. And while Tamlin is holding back these hounds, we need to go. Elaine yells for the girl to jump into Azriel's arms as he is running / flying by if she wants to live. Azriel's wings get injured by a hound, but he manages to hold both Elaine and the girl to stay afloat, which is
Wild.
so crazy to me what he's able to
Yeah.
do.
That adrenaline rush
Feyre and
really pumps up your powers.
For sure. Feyre is running to the edge of the cliff to fly, and right before she gets to the edge, a spring breeze helps her float into the air and avoid crashing or getting attacked by the hound. Again, thank you,
Thank
Tam
you, Tam
Tam. Like,
Tam.
what?
Coming in real handy in this
Feyre,
section. That little wolf.
I know. But was it for Feyre? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Or Elaine.
Or is it for our girl Lane?
Interessante. Good point, Megan. Probably for Elaine.
Interessante indeed.
Mhm.
Feyre uses Helion's power to open the wards around Hybern's war camp, and they make it through. Tamlin also jumps through the open ward to get away from Hybern, so he makes it out of the camp alive as
Mhm.
well. They arrive back at the war camp. Not Tamlin. We don't know where Tamlin goes, but Azriel, Elaine, Feyre, and that girl end up back at their war camp.
You just
And
read my mind, honestly. I was thinking the same thing, like, where the fuck did Tamlin go?
we don't know. Well, now we know, but we don't know in the
Yeah,
moment where he
right.
went. Reese comes running towards them. He sees Azriel's wings and someone is calling for a healer. We learn the girl's name is Briar, and Feyre tells Reese that she couldn't leave her. Nesta runs towards them and is crushing Feyre in a hug, thanking her for saving Elaine. Elaine kisses Azriel's cheek
Mm?
and hugs Feyre, and that's when Feyre starts crying. Feyre sees the healer and Elaine gets the chains off her wrists. And Elaine comes and lays next to Feyre and Nesta on her other side, and Reese shoos everyone out of the room.
Yes, and here is my notable line for chapter 65, page 583. I didn't know how long my sisters and I lay there together, just like we had once shared that carved bed in the cottage. Back then, we had kicked and twisted and fought for any bit of space, any breathing room. But that morning, as the sun rose over the world, we held tight and did not let go. Aww.
Oh,
Sisters.
sisters.
Gotta love being a sister and having sisters.
I know. We love our sisters.
I feel bad for honestly anyone that doesn't have a sister. That shit sucks.
I know. I can't imagine
I
not
can't
having a
imagine.
sister.
I
Yeah.
know.
Chapter 66. Callias's army finally arrives to their camp, and Feyre is still thinking about how Tamlin saved them last night. And
It
I
was
mean, you too,
shocking.
girl. It
Yeah.
was very shocking. Feyre is on her way to get her sister's food when she spots Moore, Vivian's sister, and Briar. Moore is having Briar stay with the Winter Court because they're a little less intimidating than the Night Court and the Illyrians.
I get it.
Literally, they have fluffy animals in their war camp.
Yeah.
Then we have the Feyre and Moore chit chat.
And here's my notable line for chapter 66, page 587. Moore says to Feyre, "You did a brave thing in saving Briar." "Anyone would have done it," Feyre responds. "No, I'm not even sure I would have tried to get her, if I would have deemed the risk worth it. I've made enough calls like that where it had went badly that I," and Feyre switched the subject to Asriel.
Asriel is alive and healing, and what we find out is he most likely is not going to be able to fly for a while,
Mhm.
which is not good for us and the upcoming battle in the really the final battle in
Yeah.
this war.
Yeah.
Moore and Vera decide to call a truce and decide that they are not going to lie to each other anymore.
That's right.
Moore says that Feyre was right, that she does not love Asriel in a romantic way, and that she never would. She prefers females to males. And this is where we get that lovely background story about Moore
Yes.
that Amanda told us earlier. So I'm not going to put that back out there again. I think we covered it
We
nicely.
won't need to
But
botch the, humans queen's name anymore.
exactly. Moore just doesn't know why she hasn't put Az out of his misery, but it's a part of her that just has been just kind of for her. She didn't want her family knowing and tainting it and didn't tell them before because the mother knows what they would have done to
I
her when
know.
they fucking what they did to her already when she slept with Cassian.
Yeah,
And she sleeps with males mostly so that no one catches on, which is just it's honestly so
I
heartbreaking.
know. That is sad.
Feyre is like, no one in Valaris or our family would care that we would all be so happy for you.
I think this
But
part too is very relatable for
yeah.
readers who go through this.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I think it's good to see this kind of conversation happening on page
yeah,
and
exactly.
seeing how Feyre is supportive of her.
Yeah.
Moore thinks that it would be a bad idea to sleep with Asriel even just once, just to see, because she thinks it would give him that like final reason that they should be together when she knows she would never fully be able to love him in the way he loves her.
Mhm.
That's just so sad too for
I
Asriel. Like, I'm just
know.
so sad for everybody in this moment.
I need Azriel to find a love now.
Feyre will keep Moore's secret, even from Reese, and she'll do that until Moore is ready for everyone else to know, which is great. She kind of has that girl's girl thing going on,
Yeah.
just like Moore does for Feyre. And they basically hug it out, and they are friends again.
Yes.
They had their first little spat, but they're back to being friends again.
Yeah, and of course, during this whole war, they're probably thinking, well, we know Moore is thinking that they might not have another chance to get together and talk and make up. So
I know, and
it's
that's why I don't know
important.
why she just can't put Azrael out of his misery
I
now. We have to wait.
know. That's true. That's
Oh
true.
well,
She's so just so terrified of her family.
I know.
Crazy.
Moving on,
Moving on.
Amryn has locked everyone out of her tent while she's working on the book because that's all Amryn does is have sex with Varian apparently and work on the book. Back in Feyre's tent, the other High Lords are gathering. The Hybern army was not where they were supposed to be. He was no longer marching north, he was now marching the army east.
Mhm.
We know he is not going to meet the queens since he sent them home and he probably wouldn't use them until he made it to the continent. He is now delaying the conflict because he doesn't have the missing piece of the cauldron from Nesta. So that's what they're assuming is that he
Mhm.
doesn't have the cauldron at full power, so he's kind of like delaying this conflict.
Right.
But the King of Hybern also knows that the way their army would have to march would exhaust them, leaving the human lands defenseless. So even though he thinks it's going to take a lot longer for them to get there, so he's like, in the meantime, I will destroy the human lands and exhaust this army so that I have a better chance of prevailing.
Yeah.
He was doing this now because they had stolen Elaine back from him and he saw it as an insult. And, Nessa taking power from the cauldron, them stealing Elaine back, Feyre doing what she did in Hybern. He's just had enough with these Archeron sisters,
Yeah.
which Callies is like, that's insane to be planning a war based on three girls, basically.
Yeah.
And Helian's like, well, I remember him from the first war, and this is exactly like something he would do.
Yeah.
The king of Hybern knows that they will come to help the humans, exhausting themselves and having a disadvantage on the battlefield because they were decent Fae people. They would fight as one with the new worlds they now lived in with the wall down.
Yes. And here is my notable line, my second line actually, for chapter 66, page 597. Reese says, "Of course we're going to. We will be outnumbered and exhausted, and it will not end well. But this has nothing to do with my mate or her sisters. The wall is down. It is gone. It is a new world, and we must decide how we're going to end this old one and begin anew. We must decide if we will begin it by allowing those who cannot defend themselves to be slaughtered, if that is the sort of people we are, not individual courts. We, as a Fae people, do we let humans stand alone? We'll all die together then," Helion said.
Cassian says, good. If he was going to die, then defending those who need it the most is how he's going to go out, which
Mhm.
everyone seems to be in agreement with. They decide that they were going to winnow in as many families to the summer court before Hybern reaches them. And Amryn pops in going, I hope you guys decided that we're going to go fight Hybern because I found a way to stop their entire army. All four of the maid girls would need to touch the cauldron and they would be able to take out the entire army, which is
Yes.
wild.
And the king himself.
Yes. Chapter 67. They would need to nullify the cauldron together, all who had been made, Feyre, Amryn, Nesta, and Elaine, and they would be able to stop and wipe out Hybern's army. They would need to wait until the war was going and everyone was distracted before they made their move. There
Mhm.
would be no way they could just walk into the camp again after Elaine, so they would have to wait to see the trap the king had set for them. So they have to walk into this trap, unfortunately, for the maid girlies to go and do what they need to do.
Yeah. Of course they have to touch the cauldron again.
Yeah. Anyone who could winnow went into the human lands and brought them to Cressida in the summer court, where she would be with them to keep them calm, provide food and shelter, etc.
Mhm.
Some families didn't want to go, but Reese winnowed them in anyways. They did this over and over again until they were all exhausted. Feyre watched Reese sleep and knew he would sacrifice himself for his family, that even the rest of their family would fight with their lives so that they could go and try and stop the cauldron.
Yes. And here's my notable line for chapter 67, page 602. Amryn had not mentioned Braxis in our talk earlier, had seemed to have forgotten it, but we still had a battle to wage tomorrow. And if Braxis could buy my friends, could buy Reese any extra time while I hunted down the cauldron, if it could buy them the slimmest shot of survival, then the bone carver could as well.
Yes.
Yes.
So Feyre winnows to the Court of Nightmares and follows what she had read about the mirror to its resting place. She would have to climb 1,000 steps to get to the mirror, but she remembered the Suriel's words, only you can decide what breaks you, curse breaker.
Oh, the surreal. He lives on in spirit.
Yes. Chapter 68. Feyre finds the mirror. Feyre
Yep.
approaches the mirror when she sees the monster crawling behind as she is looking at her reflection. When she turned around, there was nothing there. No monster, which Amanda gave us a description of earlier. When she turns back to the mirror, she saw the monster looking back at her and she realizes it was actually her. And this is what had lurked beneath her skin.
Mhm.
Feyre arrives at the prison and at the bone carver's cell, and she gives him the mirror. The carver is shocked that she got it, that she looked into the mirror and wants to know what she saw. And Feyre tells him to MYOB, mind your own business. Feyre tells him it's time for him to uphold his bargain and that the battle awaits. The barn carver says that it would be his pleasure. And Feyre does not like how he says this.
No. And here's my notable line for chapter 68, page 607. I have little need for that thing, but you did. I wanted to see if you were worth helping. It's a rare person to face who they truly are and not run from it, not be broken by it. That's what the Ouroboros shows all who look into it, who they are, every despicable and unholy inch. Some gaze upon it and don't even realize that the horror they're seeing is them, even as the terror of it drives them mad. Some swagger in and are shattered by the small, sorry creature they find inside. But you, yes, rare indeed. I could risk leaving here for nothing less.
Wow.
Wow.
That little shit.
That little shit.
Feyre's like, you made me do all of that to see if I was worthy? Are you kidding me? And the bone carver says, yep, pretty much.
Karma's a bitch, though, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Despite her anger, she knows that they need him, so she takes the bone carver's hand, which is so frightening
Yeah,
that she touches the bone carver
I know.
and says it's time to begin. Chapter 69. Our army is marching its way to the final battleground, and we see that Hybern has destroyed the Spring Court, her old village, and her father's estate. Well, some of the estate.
Mhm.
The Illyrians in the army were getting a little testy, but Cassian is keeping them in line. Nesta and Feyre get into Illyrian fighting leathers, but Elaine had to wear winter court clothing because she found the Illyrian leathers just a little too scandalous for Elaine's liking,
That's
which
interesting.
is wild.
She doesn't like
Like,
leather?
she does not belong with the Night Court. She
No,
just doesn't.
she doesn't.
Azriel gives Elaine truth teller, though, to defend herself as a just in case, because she had just told Cassian she wasn't taking a knife from him. But if Azriel gives her a knife, then it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Apparently, he has never given up or let anyone touch truth teller before. So
Wild.
that's a big deal.
What is it with these men in Elaine?
I know.
Can't just be her pretty face.
No, I think she is just such a sweet soul
Yeah.
deep down that I think she just is so inviting and warm. And
Yeah.
it's probably just like hard not to want to be around her.
Yeah, like easy to want to take care of her and protect her because she's so good. Such a
Yeah.
good person. Yeah.
Yeah. This is why I want Elaine to have a villain arc.
Because she's too nice.
Yeah. Feyre realizes, wow, this is it. This could be the last time they are all standing together as the Court of Dreams. And that she was so busy off last night getting like Braxis and the Bone Carver that she didn't even get this like last final night with
Yeah.
Rhysand.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we can take it in the back of the carriage if you want. But they don't. And Rhysand starts to give a speech to the Court of Dreams.
Mhm.
And he says that he believes everything happens for a reason. And then he turns to each of his court members and speaks to them directly. And we're going to start with Cassian. And I'm going to try to make it through this
Without
crying.
crying.
It's not the whole speech, and it's broken up. So I think we'll be good.
Yeah.
That I won't cry.
I think so.
So to Cassian, he says he would not know the true depths of strength, resilience, of honor, and loyalty. To Azrael, he says if he had not met a shadow singer, he would not known that it is the family you make and not the one that you're born into that matters. That he would have not known what it is to truly hope, even when the world tells you to despair. He says to Moore, if he had not met his cousin, he never would have learned that light can be found even in the darkest of hells, and that kindness can thrive even amongst cruelty, which I think is my favorite one, like,
Yeah.
of what he says, because I don't know, I really resonate with that, some of what
Yeah.
he says there. To Amryn, he says, if I hadn't met a tiny monster who hoards jewels more fiercely than a fire drake, then my own power would have consumed me long ago. And to Feyre, though he says all of this through the bond, he says, I would have waited 500 more years for you, 1,000 years. And if this is all the time we were allowed to have, then the wait was worth it. I believe everything happened exactly the way it had to so that I could find you. Which, it's so good. It's
So
so
good.
romantic. If no one says that to me, then I don't want it. I don't want you.
Then I don't want it.
And to the Archeron sisters, he says, we have not known each other for long, but I have to believe that you were brought here into our family for a reason too. And maybe today we'll find out why. Which
Yes.
I think we will.
I think we will too. And here's my notable line for chapter 69, page 613. Rhys continues and says, we will walk onto that field and only accept death when it comes to haul us away to the other world. We will fight for life, fight for survival, for our futures. But if it is decided by the tapestry of fate or the cauldron or the mother that we do not walk off that field today, the great joy and honor of my life has been to know you, to call you my family, and I am grateful more than I can possibly say that I was given this time with you all.
Such a good speech. And
Such
they're
a
like,
good
well
speech.
said, High Lord.
Yes.
Well said.
Well said indeed.
Now that that wonderful speech is over, they find the Highburn army. It is massive and is not looking good for our friends. Cassian says they may only have a few hours. Azrael wants to fight on foot, but Reese says no.
Mm-hmm.
The Maid Gang will wait until the battle is at its utmost chaos, then they will make their way across the battlefield to the cauldron. Azrael shadows were already currently looking for the cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
The battle starts with magic first. Everyone's shields are up. Everyone's trying to see if they can break through their shields so that Reese can unleash his power at the Highburn army. And everyone's like, ugh, I forgot how boring this part is. And I was telling Amanda earlier when we were just reading, I just picture them all just standing there looking at the hybrid army with just their putting their shields up and it just looking so weird. I can just see it so clearly in my head. Reese is gathering his power to strike when Feyre tells Reese she never got him a mating present. Because I love that our girl is so consistent. She likes to bring up weird shit at random times.
Yeah.
But I don't know how this is a mating present, but it's definitely maybe like I'm gonna save your life by doing this.
Yeah.
But Feyre has a new tattoo down her back, and she sends the image to Reese just as the bone carver and Braxis appear on the battlefield. She did it.
She did it.
Reese, not to be outdone, shows a tattoo behind his ear as the Weaver appeared on the battlefield to fight. That's why Helion was in the middle to break the ward of her containment to the middle for her services on the battlefield today, which is just so wild that you now have the Weaver, the Bone Carver, and Braxis all before our army, all about to start eating Highburn.
Yes, and that was definitely my prediction last episode, and it came true. Or maybe the
It's
episode
true.
before, but I think it was last episode.
Yeah.
That they were all three going to help them in the war. So, fuck
Mm-hmm.
yeah, go me.
Feyre says Hybern has no idea what hell is about to be unleashed upon them, which Reese responds to, here's to family reunions, because the Weaver and the Bone Carver are looking at each other like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing? Chapter 70. The Carver, the Weaver, and Braxis start destroying and moving through Hybern's army. Reese then unleashes his power, misting a good chunk of Hybern's army, splitting the army in two, which is just so crazy, the power that he has. And it's so crazy to, like, I can't, that's the one thing I just can't even fathom, is the actual size of Hybern's army
Yeah.
that Braxis, the Weaver, and the Bone Carver are eating through this group, right? And then Reese like missed a good majority of them, splitting the army in two, and we're still struggling.
Yeah.
Like that's just so crazy how much power or soldiers Hybern has.
Yeah. Well, they said it was like 200,000 people.
Yeah.
On top
That's
of the other territories that were overseas. So that was just who he had
yeah. The
before
only
they
good thing
even
is
joined
I
them.
don't think any allies are there. This is just all Hybern.
That's what I'm saying. So, it was
Yeah.
200,000 soldiers before they even had brought in
Yeah.
their allies.
I can't even just picture that number
Yeah,
standing before me.
crazy.
Azrael then unleashes a second blast, pushing them back even further. The Illyrians then flew into the battle as the Ator-looking creatures flew up into the sky as well. So
Fucking
the
Ators are back.
the fighting has finally begun. Feyre reminds Braxis and the Carver that they can only eat the Highburn armies. They pull against her orders, though, but she reinforces her power over them. And thankfully, they did not turn on our soldiers and just kept eating their way through Highburn.
Thank
Really, guys,
God.
there's enough of people before you. Just keep eating
Yeah,
that way.
literally.
Reese wanted the maid girls to still wait, even though the battle was already getting messy.
Mhm.
But then they hear a horn and see Baron, Tamlin, and Lord Grayson's army or shields marching into battle. Eris appeared before them saying Baron and Tamlin were awaiting orders and that Tamlin had dragged Baron there. So Tamlin
Tamlin.
doing some good work again.
Yeah. Okay, Tammy.
Jurian is leading the human army and he wants orders as well. The rest of the Autumn Court sons were winning around, blowing up, and setting fire to the Hybern's Fabine. So now, thankfully, they can no longer use that power against our Perithian group.
Yeah.
Reese decides now is the time for Feyre, Amren, Nesta, and Elaine to go find the cauldron. Amren, in Amren fashion, is like, I guess we're just gonna follow the path of bodies the Weaver's creating for us to follow her to the cauldron.
Yep.
And she's like, yep, come on, let's go. I'm eating people for you. Nesta gasps on their way to the cauldron and stumbles. The cauldron was awakening, and the king was about to unleash the cauldron's powers at them. Amren yells, shields, and Reese wraps one around their army, which cannot be easy.
No.
Nesta is looking up like she knew exactly where the power was going to strike. And Nesta starts screaming Cassian's name. And she lurches up like she would go up into the air to get him, but she falls down again to throw up. Cassian starts flying towards them. The king had picked the position they were in at the top of the hill, not just for having the higher ground, but to position the cauldron. The Ators dropped from the sky, leaving the Illyrians exposed, which hopefully some of them also started to drop when they saw that
Yeah.
happening. But
Yeah.
anyways, Cassian was about halfway to them when the power erupted and the power broke through everyone's shields. And where that Illyrian soldiers had been were now raining down in ashes. Poof, completely
Crazy.
gone because of the cauldron. Cassian would have been in the center of that blast. Reese looks to Nesta like he knew what she had done and done it on purpose. And he didn't know if he should thank her or scold her for the guilt that Cassian would now feel. Nesta went stiff again, and Cassian flew to Nesta's side. Everyone had their shields back up. But the cauldron did not strike in the same place twice. It was even striking at its own soldiers this time.
And here's my notable line for chapter 70, page 627. An unearthly female shriek broke from deep in the Hybern forces, a sister's warning and pain, just as that white light slammed into the bone carver. But the carver, I could have sworn he looked towards me as the cauldron's power crashed into him. Could have sworn he smiled, and it was not a hideous thing at all. There and gone. The cauldron wiped him away without any sign of effort.
Oh man, which brings us to our last chapter of this episode, which is chapter 71, R.I.P. the Bone Carver.
R.I.P. Let's give a moment of silence. Okay.
Okay. The Illyrians reformed their lines with the Peregrines, and the human army did not falter even after those two blasts. Nesta confirms now to everyone that the cauldron had gone quiet again, so they know that they at least have this time to kind of reinforce their armies, what they were going to do, because they probably couldn't take another hit or two of the cauldron.
No.
They would be done for. Cassian scans her, and Feyre wanted to know if Cassian knew what Nesta had done to save him. Cassian is going to go back into the battle, and Azriel is going this time as well. Reese was not going to keep him out of the battle when he needed to be helping. He's like, I can't just be standing here watching, us lose, basically.
Yeah.
Amren said so at this point, Nessa's still shaken up. Elaine is scared to death. She's unable to move, like frozen.
Yeah.
So Feyre's like, Amren, do you think it's possible that only me and you can go to the cauldron and it will work? And Amren's like, I guess it's possible. It never said how many people it needed, but I definitely think it would be more helpful if all four of them were standing there.
Right.
A horn sounded on the water, and there was an armada of ships with the rest of Hybern's army. So they're like, great. Amren, though, suggests that they may have to run. And if they couldn't even fight this current army, not to mention that there was another one that was about to land.
Yeah.
Reese tells Feyre, you need to try and stop the king, the cauldron. And if you cannot, and there is no one else left, you need to run. And Feyre is having none of this because they said that they would not do goodbyes. But basically, all of them are saying goodbye at this point.
Yeah.
Reese tells Az to take the northern flank, which he feels super guilty about because he's still injured and probably will die, and Cassian to take the southern flank. Cassian says, I'll see you on the other side, and he did not mean on the other side of this battle.
Yeah.
Sad.
So sad.
But another set of horns blast into the air, and Rhys lifts Feyre into his arms and shoots into the sky, and Cassian lifted Nesta in his arms. And then we see relief is here.
Thank God.
The Seraphim were flying Draken's Legion, and there were so many more ships sailing for them, more than Hybern's fleet, with Miriam's people on it. Draken said that they could have asked for help, and Rhys is like, we
We
tried.
tried.
But they had, like Amanda said earlier, the island of Crete was glamored, but they're like, we should have known that better, that our friends would not even be able to find us. So
Yeah.
silly on their part, but they made it here in the end. So I guess we can't complain too much.
Yeah.
Draken wants to know if they need help or if they're just going to keep flapping in the air. Rhys wants to know if the boats are friends of theirs. And Draken's like, no, I think they're friends of yours. That we met up with them on the way and we helped push them along. The ships were being led by Vassa, who was not found by Lucien, but he was with them. He found Vassa, Lucien, but what he found with Vassa was the Prince of Merchants.
Wild.
Feyre's daddy found Vassa, and they put together this army. He had heard, Feyre's dad, had heard of the war and that it was coming and that the queens had betrayed them.
Mm-hmm.
So he found Vassa, put together this army. Lucien then finds all of them, and then on their way sailing back here, they meet up with Draken and Miriam, and they give some air magic to their sails to get there quicker.
Yeah.
So, and thank God, because they're already late.
Yeah, they're already real late.
The Prince of Merchants told Draken how he had 3 daughters that he had failed for many years, and he would not fail them again.
Yes, and here's my notable line for chapter 71, page 634. Draken continues. He named his 3 personal ships after them, the Feyre, the Elaine, and leading the charge against Hybern, flying over the waves, unyielding and without an ounce of fear, the Nesta, with my father, our father, at the helm. Wild.
I just got goosebumps again.
I cannot believe that.
I know.
Literally learned he's on the continent 70 chapters ago.
No, even before that, he was gone in Akamath too.
Wild.
Yeah. We have not seen the dad since Akatar.
Yeah, that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Genius. She's such a I have no words. She's such a genius.
It was an epic way to end this set of chapters.
Epic way. I cannot fucking believe the dad is back.
I know, and we only have 11 more chapters of this book.
Wow.
So crazy.
Less than 100 pages left.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to the predictions so we can go read.
Yes, we need to go read.
I need to know how this fucking battle ends and how this book ends. But before we get there, I really only have one prediction for this section.
It's hard at this
Mostly
point.
because, first of all, my brain is a jobbled mess. Like, I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen. And 2, the only thing I can concentrate on is that I think Nesta is still going to give the last blow to the king. And maybe even to the cauldron now. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Now I feel like the cauldron is just as evil. Or at least an enemy of Nesta's specifically.
Right. Yeah.
So, but my one prediction, besides what I just said about the cauldron, is that Lucien is going to make a reappearance in our story before we end here. So we know he found Vassa, but it was after their father had found her, and he's coming back with them. So he's going to have to do something in this war, in this final battle. So
we'll see.
Can't wait to see what that is. And that's all we have for you today. I cannot wait to read the end of this book. So we got to wrap this up quick. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let us know what you think by leaving us a review and comments on any of the platforms you are listening/watching on, or on our social media pages. This helps tremendously to get the word out and lead more listeners to find our show and tune in.
Yes, don't forget to email, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and tell all your friends about us. We hope the rest of your day is blissful. Bye!
Thank you so much for listening. Join us next week where we start part 7 of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, covering chapters 72 through 82. Happy reading!